Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to Crossing the Aisle. My co-host over here came in hot, very, very last minute.
Yeah, okay. There's a there's a train by my office, right? And if I don't leave at a specific, I gotta leave like at I guess 11:25 ish to make it here on time, or I catch that train. It's
But
only
what do
20.
what do I remind you
Yeah,
every
yeah.
day?
It's 24 minutes from my office to the studio, and I sometimes I just miss the window. So and today I was one of those days.
Yeah, had me stressing out over here, but he made it right on time.
Yep, yep. Glad I bought a Genesis. It's really fast. So I was going about 90 down Highway 49 just a
Yeah,
second
you had
ago.
gotten pulled over, then you would have been really late.
Yeah, but that would have been a good story. Well, I mean, not from my insurance company, but
Not
it
for your
would have.
pocketbook, huh?
Yeah, that would have sucked. That would have sucked. So
So, Shaun, we went to the museum yesterday. We actually went to see the Hurricane Katrina exhibit, which wasn't all that great.
yeah, it was a what's the word I'm gonna look at? It's not. It was
It
not.
we weren't wowed.
Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't. It was interesting. I think we wanted to go, and I mean, I recommend people go to the two museums if you haven't been. It's free on Sundays, and that's why we went because we're cheap. And and it's really beautiful. Like they've done a terrific job. It feels like you are going to a Smithsonian in DC. It really is that well put together. And Lindsey had actually never been into the civil rights portion of the
I
museum,
hadn't.
so we did all that. And
It's really
yesterday,
amazing in there, really, really set up incredible. Didn't you say the people who, were that built the Smithsonian also
yeah, I think
did
there were
that?
some of the ones that were the advisors of it for sure. Yeah, so, but it's really great. It's really put together really, really well, and it open your eyes to the history on that side of the state. Of the civil rights movement, all the things that went on through there, and it's really fascinating. It's really worth it, and I think anybody would probably enjoy it. So it's something to think everybody should check out. But we did go see the Hurricane Katrina exhibit. It was a little underwhelming, and I wanted to go see it because I'm 45, Lindsay's 40. That's kind of our era of coming up, and I was just in the summer 2005. I'd actually just graduated law school and was taking the bar exam a few weeks before Katrina, and I was still. I remember during the storm, I went over to my dad's house and he just had vats of rum, and so we just sat there and drank. So I'm like, I really remember this day really well. It's like now it's in a museum, makes you feel pretty old. So.
Did he have that because he knew the storm was coming?
I mean, I think he probably just had it anyway, knowing him. Right? He had an ample supply of alcohol. So, but what we decided to do was like, we'll just drink this rum all night. And
Had a
stay up
hurricane party, huh?
Yeah, have a hurricane party. So I think a lot of people had hurricane parties that day. And he lived out in Bay Point, which is in Rankin County on 471 back
Mhm.
then. They live in Diamond Head now, but the next day they had power because they're on a different power they were then. I don't know who serves there now. I don't think it's not Entergy. And so like they had power. So we had so many people come to their house, my friends from like law school and my sister's, she was married to her first husband back then, and their relatives lived in Slidell, so they came up because we're like, we got power.
They're the only ones that have power?
Yeah, we did. I remember, and then I had some friends in Jackson. Then Jackson, if I remember, a lot of people didn't have power for a really long time, so we had a few of them kind of coming back and forth. It was like a bunkhouse there for at least a month, from my recollection.
Yeah. Well, one part of the museum that I thought was really impressive yesterday was they had a whole section talking about the Brown versus the Board of Education
Yeah.
and how all of that went down. But they had like a classroom setting set up, and it's kind of split into two classrooms. And one side has benches, and the other side had these really nice desks for students. And it was showing you how the classrooms were different compared to if you went to an all black school or an all white school
Right.
before desegregation. And it was really impressive. I mean, down to the details, it was quite impressive. And so I urge everyone to go and check that out if you haven't already. But it got us kind of back into the school choice topic. And that was kind of a heated debate topic during this past legislative session.
Yeah, and I know that you were really you're really into that issue. And then research it a lot and stuff like that. But I think one of the and I'm gonna let you run with this because you know way more about this than I do, way more. But the one thing I will say that I think people miss from even the one historical perspective, which is kind of my area, like so Brown versus Board of Education was handed down by the Supreme Court in, I think, 1954, and the schools were really not desegregated till 1971. And so it was a very long time before they actually said, okay, now you got to go do it. For all many years,
They
about
kept
15 or
delaying
16,
it, right?
yeah, they kept delaying. They made deals, and people don't know about the deals they made. So like a lot of the white establishment went to the black establishment and said, "Hey, look, here's the deal. We'll start giving you some more money now, and you can still have black principals, and you can have black teachers, and we'll keep our white schools." So they were kind of making deals with each other that people don't really understand that went on. Where
Because at least they were getting more funding, 'cause up
Mhm.
until that point, the white schools had gotten much more funding per student
Yeah,
than the
way more,
black.
way more, way more, way more. Yeah, absolutely. And so they made those deals with each other. And so the black folks were like, well, heck, we want to keep our teachers and our principals and get more funding for our schools, because if they integrate, then it's not there's never gonna be a black principal. So they looked at it like that way for a long time. Now that wasn't everybody, but there was a lot of the black folks that were scared of sending their kids to white schools, understandably so. So there was a lot of little moving parts to that whole thing the way it happened. In 1971, they finally was like, this is what we're going to do. We're desegregating the schools, and that's what happened. And that's when busing started and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like throughout this past legislative session, there was some school choice legislation, and I feel like there was a lot of contradicting information. Obviously, it was a really hot topic, and there
Mhm.
were, some school superintendents who put out this rhetoric that this was bad. This is going to be bad, bad, bad for Mississippi.
Right.
And one of those school districts being right, my school district, Madison County,
Mhm.
and another over in Pearl, their school district. I really was disgusted actually by their superintendent's Facebook post that he made talking about how he
Which one
felt
was that?
the way he said he needed to build a border. If we need a
No, I mean,
border,
which superintendent was it?
he's Pearl.
Okay.
I'd have to look his name up, but he said basically we need to build a border around our school district, and I wanted to build a border to keep who out?
Hmm.
Kids? To keep children out of school, you need a border?
Yeah.
We are now surrounded after this legislative session, we are surrounded by states that have universal school choice, which
Hmm.
gives the parents the right to decide where their children learn the best. And that money per student follows the child. And so by doing this, we're funding students, not systems, not superintendents. Mississippi has the highest paid superintendent in the country.
Hmm.
We have entirely too many assistant superintendents, entirely too many school districts. Whereas, and I've got the numbers, I'll read those between Mississippi and Florida, but there's a huge difference there, yet we don't show the results that we should be showing to be pouring that much more money into the faculty and the superintendents here in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah. And there's you know, just hanging around you, learning about this whole debate was kind of interesting to me, especially being a Democrat for so long, and because this is one of the issues where I disagreed with my own party about, where they have always wanted to support what I call the public school industrial complex. And it's more about, to me, to Democrats, it's more about the system than it is the student. And I've always had a problem with that for going
Mhm.
back for the last 20 years, because I never understood why we couldn't try charter schools, or why we couldn't, give students money to go find a place where they can get a better education. It should be about them, not about a system. And that was my issue.
Mhm.
What I found most interesting about this debate for the first time ever was the alliances that you had, where you had the Democrats all voting against school choice,
Mhm.
and then aligned with some Republicans who are voting against
Who
it.
crossed the aisle to vote with the Democrats to
Right.
keep school choice out of Mississippi.
And they were both doing it for two entirely separate reasons.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Democrats were doing it because they wanted to prop up the public school industrial complex, and the Republicans were doing it because they didn't want black kids coming to their white schools. I mean, like, they put it that way. I mean, that's essentially what it was, though.
Well, the superintendent in Madison County Schools actually showed up at PTO meetings and had what he shared with all parents a legislative agenda. Now, this made me all kinds of angry because I feel a PTO meeting is the last place that anyone involved with the school should be sharing any sort of political agenda. But he talked about the things that they were against were open enrollment or school choice because it
Mhm.
results in negative effects on school culture and a decrease in property values.
Mhm.
They're against educational vouchers for private school tuition because it takes state tax dollars out of public schools and creates deficits in public school districts. Well, let me tell you, the parents are paying the taxes just like everyone else.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't they get a say so in where their children are going to have the best education or get that best education? Because children are not one size fits all, not when it comes to vaccines and not when it comes to education. They all learn differently. And some children can learn better in a different environment other than whatever public school they happen to be zoned for. So, we're holding our students back just so that we can line the pockets of superintendents. That's basically what is happening. And I don't believe that there will be a mass exodus from public schools. We've not seen that happen in any other state where this is clearly working. But I can tell you the difference, just looking at Mississippi and Florida. Mississippi has 144 school districts to Florida's 73.
Mhm.
The population in Mississippi is 2.94, Florida 22.61. Florida ranks number 1 in education, Mississippi number 35.
Yeah, I mean,
Big difference, big difference.
Yeah, quite a big difference. Somebody's doing something right, somebody's not.
And they've passed universal school choice in Florida.
As most of the southern states have.
Right. Yeah, I'm telling you, we're left behind once again.
Let me ask you this question. You said the superintendents are lining their pockets or whatever. Is that the reason you think that they don't want school choice in the suburban counties? Or?
Absolutely, because that if they feel like if they lose students from their public schools, it's going to cost them jobs or cuts in pay. And
well, that's the Jackson schools, right? That they're worried about that. I'm talking about like
Madison County schools. We have a ton of assistant superintendents.
But are they going to lose money? Like if kids are going to those schools?
If kids leave public schools in Madison to go to private schools in Madison,
I got you.
Then yes, they are going to lose money.
I got you. That makes sense. Okay.
They're being overpaid anyway.
No, and I see what you're saying. Okay, so that's why. But they also, the rhetoric that you've shown me, and then kind of just read some of it about that flyer, like it was talking about public school kids coming into public schools.
Well, the legislation this year, the only thing that our legislators were attempting to do was to change that a child could go. So right now, a child can go from one public school district to another public school district, but the district they're leaving has to sign off and the receiving district has to sign off.
Right.
So what they wanted to do this year was change that the school they're leaving has to sign off on it. Because as you know, there is a dollar amount that you get per head, per student.
Right.
So those school districts want to keep those kids there, even if the parents are wanting to put them in a different school district, because that will cost them money. They will lose that money for that child. So they wanted to remove that barrier and allow them to be able to move to a separate public school district. This wasn't anything to do with public to private. This was public to public, but just remove that the school district they're leaving has to sign off on it. And I'll tell you what, the parents campaign, which make no joke, it kind of is a joke, because make no bones about it, they are the most anti-parent organization I have ever seen in my life. They are basically the teachers union of Mississippi. It's not an official teachers union, but that's what they are.
Right.
And they have put all of these lies out there. They have emailed every public school teacher in the state telling them how bad this is going to be. This is going to just destroy public education, when in all actuality, what it will do is force them to become better schools so that they can be competitive.
No, yeah, and you're saying the parents campaign is what they're called?
The parents campaign.
Or that's more of like a liberal group, I would assume.
Nancy Loom, my arch nemesis.
Because I did see, you and others like on with the organizations that you get involved with kind of jumping on the parents campaign, and I understand why. But you guys didn't really focus on the Republicans that were against us, which were several,
There were several, and and I'm really quick to call out people that don't vote the way that I feel like they should vote. But in this case, I'm kind of not so angry with the ones that didn't vote the way I feel like they should vote, because they were being pressured by their constituents due to Nancy Loom and the parents campaign putting this rhetoric out there. So they're having all their constituents call them. And I guess it's kind of hard if you're a representative and you're representing a certain district and a certain group of people to go against what you have all of them asking you to do.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard, for talking to the people that voted against it. I think it's hard for them because they're getting pushed so much by misinformation that's being spread to their constituents about it.
Right.
I mean, because when you got superintendents talking about culture values, property values, building walls, I mean, there's you're putting it out to public like an invading army is coming to you, which wasn't the facts of these bills at all. It was, if you had space, this, that. It wasn't 300 kids were coming in, it wasn't
right. And so the school districts at the very beginning of the year would set their own policy for this on how many they could accept. And I mean, they could set the policy that they can't accept any. Yeah. So, this wasn't some big takeover to destroy public schools. I hear both sides of the aisle talk about reasons why they're against it, but in those reasons, I never hear anyone talking about what's best for these children, and that just really gets under my skin because why can't we focus on what's best for the children who need a different way to learn?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think they don't I don't know that they care. To be
Yeah,
honest with you, I don't know that they do. I don't think that's the goal. I think it's a lot of problem with a lot of policies, whether it be education or other things. Healthcare is one of them, where people are, more concerned about profits and those sorts of things, and they are, or creating, their own institutional stability than they are what the actual goal should be. Like, should we try to lower healthcare costs? Yes. Should we try to educate students the best we can? Would that be yes? But those things get mixed with jobs and money and all that stuff.
right. That's right. Well, we are up against our first break, but we want to hear from you too. What do you think? How do you feel about school choice, and what do you think the pros and cons are? You can call us here at the station at 601-879-0002, and we will be right back here on 103.9 WYAB. And welcome back in to Crossing the Aisle with Shaun and Lindsey. We're almost right and he's always wrong.
Yeah, that's what I was talking to Emily, the friend that we went to dinner with, her and her husband a week ago.
Yeah.
Who's my I call her my bail bondsman. We work together and stuff. And she was a high school friend of mine and my sister's. And she called me this morning about something. She's like, "Dang, I swear Lindsay's a feisty one now." It's just, yeah. I'm like, yeah, a bit, just a bit.
I'm passionate. That's what I like to say. I'm passionate.
Yeah. That's one way to put it. That's one way to put it.
And school choice is something that I am passionate about. It's been one of my issues that I've been fighting for several years now.
Yeah, no, true. I mean, well, before we get back into that, I did want to say we brought on a new sponsor. It's CrossFit Fondren, and they you'll hear their commercials later on coming through. And I've been going there since 2017. It's a really great run gym. And it's over there in the heart of Fondren. My office is actually in the same complex. So if you've got a legal problem, also you can come see me and work out at the same time. Works out well. But anyway, if you need some information, reach out to me or go to CrossFitFondren.com. There, our own Kim Wade goes there as well. Has been going there for years. That's how I met Kim. I didn't meet Kim through the radio. I met him at the gym. Actually, he's not the radio strongman in the gym, just so you know. His opinions are stronger than his lifts.
You're gonna start a war. A war.
So, but he works out there too. So we got a bunch of us over there, and just come out and hang out, man. We'd love to see you.
Yes, our very own Kim Wade. Y'all work out together. Y'all spot each other.
No, he goes to the noon hour. I used to do that when I had a different schedule. Obviously now I can't go to the noon class. So
you're here.
I go 6 a.m. now. Right now, I'm kind of one of those people that I have to work out early. If I try to do it like after 5, I'm
no good.
I'm dead.
You're done after that.
I'm just dead. So that's why I like the early morning or the lunch hour. So now I'm forced to do the early morning, which is good though, because it forces you to. I mean, I like getting up early. There's nothing better than getting up early, getting those things out of the way, and getting your day started because you accomplish so much more. So
yeah,
so that part that's good. I'm actually pretty happy.
And you're not driving here early in the morning anymore.
No, that was the early morning shows, man. On the radio are tough because you got to get up at 5 a.m, get ready and get in the way. I can't imagine if you had an earlier spot than the 7 spot, like the 6 spot. It's like the one that Utroska used to have and Matt Bishop's got now. Man, that's a lifestyle choice right there. It's gonna. So anyway, but yeah. So what I do now, I go to CrossFit Fondren at 6 a.m, and you can, if you can't go that early, you'll get to see the radio strongman at 12. He's usually there most days. So.
Go see Kim Wade at CrossFit Fondren. Thanks to them for believing in us and sponsoring the show.
Yeah,
we appreciate it so much. But we were talking about school choice, and how there were actually some Republicans who did not vote in favor of school choice, and Tate Reeves has talked about calling a special session in a few months because they did end our legislative session without a budget. And he has, said publicly that school choice will be one of the issues that he wants to address if there is a special session called. He's been very pro school choice and has made many pro school choice comments. And the Republican Party platform was actually rewritten this past year and during the convention. And it actually states that their commitment is to universal school choice and that Republicans believe families should be empowered to choose the best education for their children. And the Republicans will restore parental rights in education and enforce our civil rights laws to stop schools from discriminating on the basis of race. We trust parents. And so that's been my big issue is parental rights. I know my child better than anyone else knows my child, and I should be able to decide how they learn.
Well, I mean, what do you mean by that exactly? Though? I mean, I think we agree on this issue, but what do you mean, how they learn, or where they learn? You mean, or
where they learn, and not only what school, but this funding, these education savings accounts. Okay, so if we put instead of giving the school district all of this money per child, what would happen is they would set up these education savings accounts per child. That money follows the child. So if a parent wanted to buy a certain curriculum for their child to learn at home, they can use that money for that child to do that.
Okay.
And so this money can't be used for a big screen TV, or, the parents can't just spend it any way that they want to spend it. It's got to be shown that it's being spent for that child. But, when we look at learning disabilities and kids that have IEPs, kids that have, that can't have learning disabilities, that can be used to help in that way as well.
Okay. All right. Now I understand you a little better. Okay. That makes sense. I was wondering, I don't think parents should get to choose like the curriculum that the school teaches, like I don't believe in that. But if you're talking about like extras or add-ons, maybe that's, for lack of a better way of saying that, then that makes sense to me.
Or if you're homeschooling your
Yeah.
child, then this money, the money in that account goes to educate the child, and then the parent does get to choose the curriculum. But a lot of homeschool parents were up in arms about this as well, because they don't want the government to control how they teach their kid, and they think that if this passes, then the government's going to have some sort of say so. I'm going to be forced to test my child the way that the public schools do the standardized testing, and that's not the case. You can opt out. You do not have to engage with the education savings account if you choose not to. So it's not going to be forced on you. It would just be there for your child.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but I mean, you're not having a say in actually what the math curriculum is for that's taught in everyday classrooms. Is what I'm saying.
No.
Yeah, that's where I guess where I'm getting at. Because I mean, for me, instance, I can barely add. I'm a lawyer. That's what I do. I don't know anything about math, and I would not be the right person to pick what was the proper math curriculum to be taught to students. I'd be the worst person ever for that. It seems like that needs to be done on different levels, and that's why we have government in that regard runs that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get to choose the curriculum that any certain school's teaching, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay.
Yeah. But those education savings accounts have worked wonders for many children with learning disabilities. And we do have a form of school choice here in Mississippi for special needs children, but it's only allotted to so many per year, and there's a wait list a mile long. So most parents that go to sign up for that are waitlisted.
Okay. Let me ask this one too, this way. So why do you think that you said earlier in the last segment that that school choice has been passed in all the southern states? I think I read, or maybe you sent this to me, that it was Texas, Florida, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana.
I think Tennessee passed this year. Yeah. Florida.
Why are we the holdout? I mean, you know this better than I do, because you've been in.
Why are we always the holdout?
But why particularly this issue? It seems kind of interesting to me that we would be the holdout.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with our capital city. And I just think it really comes down to that. There's fear mongering, and there's these scare tactics that are used, because when you look at Mississippi, some of the best schools in the state of Mississippi are in Madison County and Rankin County. Okay. Now, Jackson or Hinds County sits right in the middle. And there is this fear that there is going to be a mass exodus from JPD because the schools are garbage, and we all know that.
JPS, you mean?
I mean JPS, and I'm sorry. JPS. And there's going to be a mass.
Now you're buying into the fear.
Sorry. But there's going to be a mass exodus from those schools, and they're going to pour into the schools in Rankin and Madison County that have such great reputations, and along with that, bring their drugs and crime and killings. And I mean, not that we've seen any killings in Jackson public schools, but in the city of Jackson, we see a lot of teenagers that have kind of led that life.
Well, I mean, okay, I understand that, and I think that is true. I think that's a big part of it. But other states that we just mentioned all have cities similar to Jackson with crime issues, to the point. Arkansas's got Little Rock, Memphis has got, Tennessee's got Memphis, New Orleans. I mean, there's similar, Montgomery, Mobile, and Alabama. So there's other states with cities that have really bad crime problems, and they still got it done. So I wonder why they were able to when we were not, considering, there's similarities there with those states and our states.
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis Jackson.
I mean, that would be what I would assume is the reason, along with the school districts themselves not wanting to lose money.
Okay.
And there's the narrative that the parents campaign puts out, is that we don't want to take public dollars and put them into private schools. But I don't see a problem with that when the parents paying taxes too. So why shouldn't they be able to decide where their kid goes to school?
But do you think I know you've told me about this parents campaign, and I've seen Russ Latino post about them and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, do you think it's those people that really push us over the line?
Yes.
I disagree there, because I think the racial rhetoric did it, in my mind.
I think that there's definitely part of it, but Nancy Loom has a hold on these
But I mean,
people.
You're talking about like a really liberal. I guess what my hard part of understanding this, you're talking about like a really liberal organization. Like, everybody here is conservative for the most part. So like, how does like a bunch of liberals have that with
they
control?
Sell themselves as conservative. They sell themselves as fighting for the teachers, fighting for the best education for students. They put that out there, and, and Nancy Loom, everything that comes out of her mouth is a lie. But she's got such a presence over, especially Delbert. And I mean, you saw that they even Jason White started the hashtag, let me check with Nancy,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's like you can't get anything done if Nancy Loom says she doesn't want it.
Right.
So these teachers unions, they're the hardest to fight on certain issues, because they do have that mindset. They have told these public school teachers this is bad, and they have made all these public school teachers believe this is going to be terrible for Mississippi. And in fact, it's quite the opposite, according to what we've seen in every other state where it's passed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we got a break, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's take a
So
break, and
Lindsay will not stop talking about this issue even letter. So I
you
was like,
get me going
yeah.
on something I'm this passionate about, and
Okay.
I might not ever shut up, but stay with us. We'll be right back here on WYAB. And we are back in Crossing the Aisle where politics meets passion, literally. So, Shaun, you don't have any kids, but wouldn't you like the option to send Ray to any place that you want to send her? I mean, she's
My
like your
dog, everybody.
kid.
That's my dog, everybody. Like,
I mean, you treat her like she's your kid, so
yeah, she's a lot cheaper than one. So, like, yeah,
that's
yeah,
true. That
that's
is very true.
yeah. I don't think she'll be going to school anytime soon. Again, so.
We had a caller that called in during the break and was asking, as a parent, how can I advocate for this? Because this is something that could really benefit my family if we have this legislation passed. And so I want to direct you guys, if you are wanting to support school choice, my friend Leah Freddy, she's got an organization called Mississippi Ready. That's I've got my shirt on today,
Mhm.
but they work. They work with Empower Mississippi, our friends Grant Callen and Forrest Thigpen over there, and she really is on top of school choice, that issue solely, and she already is working on things for next legislative session. So if you go to her Facebook page and follow her, she keeps you updated on calls to action and what bills are coming down and who you need to call and who you need to talk to and when you need to do it and what you need to say. So she's definitely a plethora of information there. And then also our sponsor, Americans for Prosperity, Starla Brown, is a huge advocate for school choice. She helped get it done in Florida, and she's not going to stop until she gets it done here. And along with Mississippi Center for Public Policy, all of these great conservative organizations who are fighting tooth and nail for school choice here in Mississippi.
I mean, that's good. You brought up how they're not going to give up until they get done. But my point is this, Lindsay, how are you going to, you're kind of at the point where you've got to change people's hearts and minds. Really. It's almost like a grassroots knock on every door, talk to people about this, because I mean, right now the perception is, and this is the easiest way to put it, and is there's a bunch of bad kids in Jackson and they're going to come to your schools and your property values can come down and blah, blah, blah. Right. I mean, that's kind of that's the rhetoric that's been used in the suburbs. And so your average person, they're concerned. They see that, they watch WLBT or APT and they see the news every night. What's going on in Jackson? It's a total S show. It's scary. There's crime constantly. There's people getting murdered pretty much every day. The mayor is under federal indictment, as we've talked about ad nauseum. So, I mean, there's so many bad things coming out of Jackson. And so they're like, I could see them being legitimately concerned. Like, I can't.
Right. I mean, I'm a parent. And when you come and tell me all these things about, hey, these are the kids that are going to be able to come into your schools, that is scary to a parent.
Yeah. I mean, and you've got like, and I can delve on my my experience as a prosecutor and now as a defense attorney. I mean, you've got a lot of young kids committing violent crimes in Jackson. So if you're a parent in Brandon and you're like, well, man, I mean, I see like a 14-year-old killed somebody the other day, which is happening. Happens, So they're legitimately concerned about that. Yeah, how do you change that? That's my question. Like, how do you change them saying, hey, no, it isn't going to be the murdering kid. It's going to be the good kid that wants to get away from the murdering kid that needs it,
It's educating people. It's talking to them and telling them, showing them the facts, basically, because what they're being told is going to happen is not what's going to happen. It's not how it's written in the bill. It's not what's happened in other states. And like you said, these other states have bad cities too.
Yeah.
But that has not happened there. That is not what we've seen at all. In fact, we've seen public schools get stronger. And we haven't seen a mass exodus from public schools. We haven't seen their football teams go down in quality. And that's what a lot of, sadly, that's what some people are concerned about, the football teams. And I'm thinking that's absurd.
Wait, what is that? How are they concerned? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know about this.
They don't want their football players to leave, or either, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sports minded.
I see what you mean. Yeah, like they're gonna like go to another school, like being recruited almost.
Yeah,
like,
basically. But that should not be
God,
the
I
concern.
love Mississippi sometimes. That's so true, though. It's something that that's a very Mississippi thing to be concerned about.
The thing you're concerned about.
I totally get why they are, though. I really can't hate them for that either. They're like, man, we got a really good football team. Want to mess that up?
Well, and this is another piece of legislation that we have this session that died, unfortunately, is the Tim Tebow Act, which is to allow homeschool students to be able to play sports in public schools. Yeah. Why does anybody have a problem with that?
I know, that's the stupidest thing. Why does anybody give an S about that? I mean,
it just makes no sense.
I don't know why anybody would care about some kids getting homeschooled. He wants to play football. Let him. Like, why is that an issue at all?
It's absurd.
It's so stupid to me. Like, I don't know, this is like the things that people should not care about. That's one of them. I mean, they should care about in the aspect of we want kids to get a chance to play sports. Those parents are already paying taxes for,
Absolutely,
I
they
mean,
are.
so let them play. That's so dumb.
You
It's,
know,
you know what that is? That's a control thing. That's what that is. It's like, oh well, I mean, you want to homeschool, so nope, don't get to play sports.
and I don't
That's all it
blame a
is.
lot of parents for wanting to homeschool their
Yeah,
children
I mean,
these
that's what
days
they want to
because of the
do.
stuff that we've seen happening in public schools across the country.
Sure. I mean, if I had kids right now, I'd be like, that's something you have to consider because for one thing, and you and I have talked about this a lot, like our policymakers are doing nothing about it. Like they don't care. Like that's my belief. Like kids are
Some
getting
of them do. Some of them do.
a few, but I mean, why aren't we? Kids are getting murdered in schools every year throughout the country through some kind of a shooting incident.
Mhm.
Why is this not a more important issue than it?
It
And I'm
should
not talking
be. It
about
should
gun
be.
control. I'm not. I know people think, oh, liberal. I'm talking about gun control. I'm not talking about gun control. I'm talking about like, why don't we sit down and have an actual discussion about what to do? That's a pervasive problem that people are coming into at schools and murdering kids, and we don't. And instead of we just kind of like, oh well, you got thoughts and prayers, and then they just move on, and they don't ever do anything. And that's, I mean, I find that really frustrating.
There's a book I would encourage everyone to read, and it's called Why Meadow Died, and it's written by the dad and the brother of a little girl, Meadow. She's a teenager who died in Parkland, and it will chill you to the bone. And he actually went and spoke in Congress, and he was so angry and his voice was filled with so much emotion, but he said 9/11 happened and we fixed it. We fixed the problem. We poured the money into it and we fixed the problem at airports so that this cannot happen again. Why can we not do that in our schools where our most vulnerable citizens are every single day? It's infuriating. Why can't we spend the money to lock our schools? And I get the argument. We don't want our schools to feel like a prison. I'll tell you what, I'd much rather a school look like a prison and not be planning one of my kids' funerals.
Yeah, I mean, and that exactly. If we're gonna also, and this is where people on your side are always like, "Well, we don't take away my guns." Okay, look, I'm cool with that. I don't even think that'd fix the problem. I'm not a gun grabbing liberal kind of person. But if you want to keep your guns, like let's come up with another solution.
Yeah.
What's the solution? Well,
More
it's
school
the
safety
yeah,
officers,
that's
more
the only solution.
security when you come through the door. I mean, there are ways to do it. We did pass the Guardian Act. I know you and I totally disagree on
Yeah, I
this.
do not like it.
I know you don't like it, but it's at least it's another barrier, I would hope, that would so what the Guardian Act is that it allows teachers to train if they opt in, if they want to, and be paid a small stipend to do so, and they can carry on school campuses. Now, Sean completely disagrees with it. He thinks we should not put that on teachers.
Yeah, and it's not that I have it's not that I have a moral problem with the teacher carrying a gun. I don't. I just think it's a stupid fix. That's my problem. I mean,
Well, it's not
you know,
it's not
look,
the fix.
I
It's a
mean,
Band-Aid.
it's like you want, the lunch lady and the librarian to be SEAL Team 6. And I just feel like that's like, can't we just have some serious way to fix the problem? Like let's with trained security personnel of some sort, like not to have again the lunch ladies carrying a Glock. Like I just feel like that's like really and we're making that kind of solution and we're talking about our children. Like
Mhm.
that's the solution that we as adults can come up with, like smart people that get together and talk about ways to solve problems. You just brought up the after 9/11 post security.
Yeah.
I mean, we can have a smarter discussion than than the librarian with the Glock. I mean, I just think we can. And I think people, if I was a parent, I'd probably be like furious. Like, this is
But
what you guys came up with?
you know what it comes down to, though.
Money.
It's money.
Yeah,
It's
but I
all
mean, this
about
is the one
money.
thing we should put money. I mean, if you don't like, I understand people don't like government this, government that, but the one thing you'd want is them to come away to secure your children.
Yeah.
I would think that would be the one thing.
It's important to me. And there are some people in the legislature who have really focused on these issues, and Jason White, Speaker of the House and Chairman of Education over in the House, Representative Robertson, and then Jansen Owen in the House did a phenomenal job this year on this legislation. So I'm thankful for those guys over there in the House who are recognizing that these are problems and that we need solutions to these problems.
Yeah, I'm glad they're trying to. I think that's a next session kind of thing, like let's because I mean what we're going to see this year. I mean, not because I'm Nostradamus, but there's going to be more school shootings.
Of course, and
There's
it will
going to,
happen here eventually. It
yeah,
will happen. It will happen at your child's school eventually.
and and we've had, it's not like we haven't had time to prepare for this.
Right.
Like we've had a lot of warning. Like there's a lot of warning
Yeah.
that this is going on. That this generation of kids are getting infected with social media, with things that that's causing them all these depression problems or on all these SRIs or whatever the
Bullying, and that's
Yeah.
another thing. Bullying, we see so many times that it's a child who's been bullied,
Mhm.
and that's another issue that school choice would fix. If your child's being bullied, you have options.
Yeah. I mean, and so it's not we are on notice that kids are getting killed in schools, and then we just continue like we're not going to do anything. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I hate it, but I think it's great for the people that are going to put the bills forward to actually to create a real solution to the
Right.
problem, like a real
Right.
solution. Hopefully, someone will do that next session, like
Yeah.
put a real solution.
We got to start working on it now.
Yep.
All right. We're up against our last break. So stay with us and we will be right back. We are back and we have just a minute before the end of the show, but Sean, thanks for talking about this subject with me. I know that it's really important to me, and
Sure.
I just believe this should be a nonpartisan issue. It should be completely a nonpartisan issue, and everyone should care about what's best for the future of our children, especially in education. They're the next generation. I mean, they're going to run the country.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think it's important. Obviously, obviously we have an issues with or massive issues with public education, and especially in the inner cities, as we've seen. And I
Yeah.
think that is, something important to resolve. It shouldn't be about protecting your own neighborhood. It should be about, educating an entire generation of people. I think that's very important. If we're all citizens of this same state, it shouldn't be
Right.
about you live in this zip code, I live in this zip code, I got away. Because the biggest problem, and the reason Jackson, and I was telling you this when we were walking around the Civil Rights Museum yesterday, Jackson didn't decline because of the crime. That's a
Right.
misnomer that people like to say, but that's not true at all. What
20
happened was
seconds.
people left because of the integration of the schools. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what
it
happened,
certainly seems that way.
you know?
Well, y'all catch us back here Monday through Friday, 12 to 1. You can find us on Crossing the Aisle YouTube or Facebook page, and we will see you all tomorrow.